Growing up in a wealthy family in Singapore wasn't always as glamorous as it seemed. Mai was constantly under the spotlight, not just because of her family's social status, but also due to her own achievements. At just 25, she had already made a name for herself as one of the youngest investment bankers at a prestigious firm. Her life looked perfect from the outside: designer clothes, luxury cars, and invitations to all the exclusive parties in the city. Her parents had carefully crafted every step of her life's journey. The best schools, the right social circles, and now they were hunting for the perfect husband. "Darling, the Tan son just got promoted to CEO," her mother would casually mention during their weekly family dinners. Or her father would mysteriously arrange business meetings with young, successful entrepreneurs from well-connected families. But something felt empty in Mai's heart. The endless parade of eligible bachelors her parents introduced her to seemed more interested in their phones than genuine conversation. Each dinner date felt like a business merger discussion rather than a chance to find true connection. One rainy Sunday morning, instead of attending another fancy brunch, Mai decided to volunteer at a local community center. Her mother had nearly fainted when she heard the news. "What will people think?" she had exclaimed. But Mai couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to life than spreadsheets and social status. The community center was nothing like her usual haunts. The paint was peeling off the walls, and the furniture had definitely seen better days. But the moment she walked in, something felt different. The air was filled with children's laughter and a sense of genuine warmth she rarely experienced in her corporate world. That's where she first saw him. Jun was teaching a group of kids, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm as he explained basic math concepts using paper planes. He wasn't wearing an expensive suit or designer shoes. His simple clothes and worn-out sneakers told a different story. But the way the children gathered around him, hanging onto his every word, showed something money couldn't buy: true passion and purpose. During the lunch break, they ended up sharing a packet of local street noodles. Jun told her about his dreams of making quality education accessible to every child, regardless of their background. He had turned down higher-paying jobs to teach at this community center, believing that every child deserved a chance to learn. For the first time in years, Mai found herself fully present in a conversation. There were no pretenses, no subtle hints about family connections or stock portfolios. Just two people sharing their hopes and fears over simple noodles and tea in paper cups. Word spread quickly in Singapore's tight-knit high society circles. The daughter of the prestigious Chen family was spending her weekends with a community center teacher. Her mother's friends started whispering during their tea sessions. Her colleagues exchanged knowing looks when she declined expensive lunch invitations to spend time volunteering. But Mai had never felt more alive. Every weekend spent helping Jun with his classes showed her a different side of life. She saw joy in the smallest things, in a child's eyes lighting up when they'd finally understood a concept, in the heartfelt thank you notes from parents, and in the simple pleasure of making a difference. As weeks turned into months, Mai found herself falling for Jun's genuine spirit and kind heart. He showed her that true wealth wasn't about the size of your bank account, but the number of lives you touched. Little did she know that this was just the beginning of a journey that would change not just her life, but the lives of countless others. The whispers and judgments from her social circle were growing louder, but for once in her life, Mai wasn't listening to them. She was too busy discovering what it meant to truly live, to follow her heart, and to find purpose beyond profit margins. Her story was about to take an unexpected turn, one that would make those who mocked her wish they had chosen a different path. The luxury high-rise apartment felt different now. Mai stood by her floor-to-ceiling window, watching the city lights flicker below. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from her mother about an upcoming dinner with the son of a banking tycoon. But her mind was somewhere else, in a humble classroom where Jun was probably staying late to help his students. Their relationship had blossomed in the most unexpected ways. While her friends posted photos from expensive restaurants, Mai found joy in simple moments. There were evening walks through local food markets, where Jun introduced her to street foods she'd never tried, despite living in Singapore all her life. They spent weekends creating teaching materials for his students, turning cardboard boxes into learning tools. Each moment showed her a different kind of richness she'd never known existed. One evening, after helping a struggling student finally grasp a difficult concept, Jun turned to her with tears in his eyes. "That moment," he said, pointing to the child's beaming face, "that's worth more than any salary package." May understood then why he chose this path, despite having graduated top of his class from the teaching college. But their happiness wasn't without its challenges. At work, May's colleagues started treating her differently. "Oh, you're still doing that volunteer thing," they'd say with barely hidden judgment. The whispers grew louder when she started declining invitations to exclusive networking events to attend community center fundraisers instead. Her father, a self-made businessman who'd worked his way up from modest beginnings, surprised her the most. "I didn't give you the best education so you could throw it all away," he said during a tense family dinner. "This teacher friend of yours, what future can he give you?" The words stung, but May found herself standing taller. "Dad, you taught me that true success comes from hard work and helping others. That's exactly what Jun does every day." Their love story became the talk of Singapore's elite social circles. Some called it a phase, others a rebellion. Few understood that May had found something genuine in a world often filled with pretense. Jun faced his own struggles. His fellow teachers supported him, but some parents at the community center questioned his intentions. "Why would a rich banker's daughter be interested in someone like him?" they whispered. Each doubt and sideways glance tested their relationship, but also made it stronger. One rainy evening, after a particularly difficult day of facing judgment from both their worlds, they found themselves sharing a simple meal at their favorite local coffee shop. The elderly owner, who had watched their relationship grow, served them their usual order with a knowing smile. "You know," Jun said, stirring his coffee thoughtfully, "when I was young, my mother always said that real love isn't about having everything perfect. It's about finding someone who makes the imperfect moments perfect." May looked around the modest coffee shop at the plastic chairs and formica tables that would have horrified her mother. Yet sitting there, sharing a plate of local dessert with Jun, she felt more at peace than she ever had at any fancy restaurant. Their different backgrounds brought unexpected richness to their relationship. Jun taught her to find joy in simple pleasures, while she helped him dream bigger for his students. Together, they started brainstorming ways to improve education for underprivileged children, combining his teaching expertise with her business knowledge. As their relationship deepened, so did the pressure from May's family. Her mother's supple hints turned into open accusations of family dishonor. Society magazines began speculating about the tragic fall of the Chen family's daughter. But with each challenge, May and Jun's bond grew stronger. What others saw as a mismatched pair, they knew was a perfect partnership. Their love wasn't built on designer labels or social status, but on shared values and dreams. Little did their critics know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would prove true wealth isn't measured by bank accounts, but by the lives you touch and the dreams you dare to chase. The news of their engagement spread like wildfire through Singapore's elite circles. May's mother dropped her favorite teacup when she heard, the expensive porcelain shattering on the marble floor, much like her dreams for her daughter's perfect marriage. The family's group chat exploded with concerned relatives sending voice messages filled with disapproval and warnings. "Have you lost your mind?" Her father's voice boomed across their family home's living room. A teacher. "What will our business partner say?" His face, usually composed for business meetings, was red with anger and embarrassment. May stood her ground, though her hands trembled slightly behind her back. "I love him, Dad. And together, we have plans bigger than just teaching at one community center." Her voice was steady, surprising even herself. Her mother sat silently in the corner, dabbing her eyes with an embroidered handkerchief, as if attending her own daughter's funeral. The next day at work was even worse. Mai could feel the stares burning into her back as she walked through the office. Her assistant, who usually greeted her with a bright smile, now avoided eye contact. During lunch, she overheard two colleagues whispering near the water cooler. "Did you hear? She's marrying some poor teacher. All that family wealth, wasted." But the cruelest blow came from her childhood friend, Li Wei. Over coffee at their usual cafe, Li Wei's words cut deep. "May, darling, we all know you have a kind heart. But marriage? Think about your future children. They'll never have the opportunities we had growing up." Jun faced his own battles. Some parents at the community center, who once praised his dedication, now questioned his motives. Maybe he's just after her money, they whispered when he passed by. His fellow teachers, though supportive, warned him about the challenges ahead. One evening, Jun came home to find his elderly mother crying over a gossip magazine. The cover story featured a paparazzi photo of him and Me with the headline, "Banking Harris's Shocking Love Affair with Penniless Teacher." His mother, who had always been proud of his choice to teach, now worried about his happiness. "Son," she said, holding his hand, "aren't you sure about this? The rich have different ways. Their world is not like ours." Jun squeezed her hand gently. May is different. She sees the world like we do, with her heart." The couple's phones buzzed constantly with messages from concerned friends and judgmental acquaintances. Some tried to be subtle. "You know, my cousin's friend is a matchmaker for elite families." Others were more direct. "This marriage will ruin both your lives." But amidst the storm, their love only grew stronger. They found refuge in planning their future together, spending evenings brainstorming ideas to revolutionize education. Jun's experience in teaching and May's business acumen sparked innovative solutions for making quality education accessible to all. One rainy evening, as they shared a simple dinner of home-cooked noodles in Jun's modest apartment, May received an ultimatum from her father. "Choose now," his message read. "Your family inheritance or this teaching nonsense." May looked at Jun, who was grading papers at their small dining table, his face lit with passion as he wrote encouraging notes to his students. The choice was clear. She typed a simple reply to her father. "I choose love and purpose over money." The response was swift and harsh. Her credit cards were cancelled, her company car recalled, and her name removed from all family business documents. The social invitations dried up, and former friends crossed the street to avoid greeting her. But something unexpected happened too. Young people from across Singapore started reaching out through social media, inspired by their story. Messages poured in. "You gave me courage to follow my heart, and thank you for showing us that love is more important than status." Their small wedding plans turned into a symbol of hope for many. Instead of the grand hotel ballroom her parents had once dreamed of, they chose the community center where they first met. Their students helped with decorations, turning the humble space into something magical with handmade paper flowers and fairy lights. The guest list surprised everyone. Alongside Jun's family and fellow teachers were some of May's colleagues who had come to respect her courage. Even a few of her wealthy friends attended, those who had seen past the social scandal to recognize true love. As they prepared to embark on their new life together, neither May nor Jun could have imagined that their biggest challenge would become their greatest triumph. But that's the thing about true love. It doesn't just survive the storm, it teaches you to dance in the rain. Their new life began in a tiny apartment far from the glittering skyscrapers of central Singapore. No marble floors or designer furniture here, just a cozy space filled with second-hand items and wedding gifts from Jun's colleagues. The kitchen barely fit 2 people, but it was there that they cooked their first meal as husband and wife, laughing as they burned their toast. May's banking colleagues were shocked when she handed in her resignation. Her boss, a senior executive who had mentored her for years, called her into his office. "You're throwing away a brilliant career," he warned, sliding her resignation letter back across his desk. "Think about this carefully." She thought of Jun's students, their faces lighting up when they understood a new concept. "Actually, sir, I'm not throwing anything away. I'm about to build something meaningful." She pushed the letter back firmly, feeling lighter with each step as she walked out of the glass-walled office for the last time. Their startup began on their living room floor, surrounded by empty coffee cups and paper covered with ideas. Jun's experience had shown him the gaps in education, how many talented students were left behind simply because they couldn't afford proper tutoring or access quality learning materials. May's business background helped them shape these observations into a viable plan. "What if we could create an online platform?" Jun suggested one night, grading papers on their second-hand sofa. "Something that makes quality education accessible to everyone, not just those who can afford expensive tuition." May's eyes lit up. She grabbed her laptop, and they stayed up until dawn, outlining their vision. They would combine Jun's teaching expertise with technology to create interactive learning experiences. But starting a company wasn't easy, especially with their limited resources. Their first office was a tiny rented space above a local coffee shop. The air conditioning worked only half the time, and they could hear the rattling of dishes from below. But it was their space, filled with dreams and determination. They named their company LearnBridge, building bridges to education for everyone. The early days tested their resolve. Their savings dwindled quickly as they invested in basic equipment and software. Mai learned to code from free online courses, staying up late to build their first website. Jun spent hours recording video lessons, often reshooting dozens of times to get them perfect. Some nights, they sat on their small balcony, sharing simple instant noodles and wondering if they'd made a huge mistake. The contrast with Mei's former life was stark. No more fancy restaurants or designer clothes. She sold her branded bags one by one to help fund their dream. But gradually, things began to take shape. Jun's former students became their first users, testing the platform and spreading the word. Their feedback was invaluable, helping them refine and improve their lessons. Word spread through parent groups and social media about this new way of learning that was both effective and affordable. They faced countless rejections from investors. Education technology. Too risky, one said. Your team lacks experience, said another, barely glancing at their proposal. Each no hurt, but they kept refining their pitch, their product, their dreams. The turning point came unexpectedly. One of Jun's former students, now in university, showed LearnBridge to her professor. Impressed by the platform's innovative approach, the professor connected them with an education foundation. Finally, someone saw their vision. Their first major breakthrough came when a small neighborhood school adopted their platform. The results were immediate. Students' grades improved, and more importantly, their enthusiasm for learning soared. Other schools started noticing, and slowly their user base grew. Mei's business skills proved invaluable as they scaled up. She negotiated deals, managed finances, and built partnerships, while Jun focused on content development and teaching methodology. They worked long hours, but unlike their previous jobs, every minute felt purposeful. One evening, exhausted but happy after a successful presentation to a group of schools, they walked past the luxury apartment building where Mei used to live. "Do you ever miss it?" Jun asked quietly, looking at the gleaming towers. Mei squeezed his hand. "Not for a second. We're building something real here, something that matters." They stopped at their favorite local food stall for dinner, sharing a simple meal that tasted better than any expensive restaurant fare. Their tiny company started making waves in educational circles. Local newspapers ran small stories about this innovative approach to learning. Teachers began reaching out, wanting to contribute their expertise. What had started as a two-person dream was growing into something bigger than themselves. Each small victory felt enormous. Their first 100 users, their first positive review, their first month of breaking even. They celebrated these moments with simple pleasures, a shared dessert, a walk in the park, a quiet evening at home planning their next steps. Their love had not just survived the transition, it had grown stronger through every challenge. They were partners in every sense, supporting each other, challenging each other, building their dream together. And though they didn't know it yet, their biggest challenges and greatest triumphs still lay ahead. The second year of LearnBridge tested their relationship like never before. Their tiny office above the coffee shop was now cramped with 4 new team members, passionate teachers who believed in their vision. The constant noise from below no longer bothered them. They were too busy dealing with server crashes and customer support issues. One rainy morning, their main server went down during a crucial online exam period. Hundreds of students were affected, and angry messages flooded their inbox. Jun hadn't slept for 2 days, trying to fix the technical issues while Mei handled the crisis communications. Their dinner that night was just coffee and leftover bread, but they hardly noticed. "Maybe we're trying to grow too fast," Jun said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. Mei looked up from her laptop, where she was responding to concerned parents. The dark circles under her eyes matched his, but her spirit remained unbroken. "Or maybe we're finally ready for something bigger." Their breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A former student of Jun's, now working as a teaching assistant in Indonesia, shared how LearnBridge had helped her remote village access quality education. The story caught the attention of a regional education blog, then a national newspaper, and suddenly they were in the spotlight. But with growth came greater challenges. Their small team was overwhelmed by the increasing user base. Technical issues multiplied, and their basic infrastructure couldn't handle the traffic. They needed investors, but their previous rejections made them hesitant to try again. One evening, while they were reviewing their dwindling finances, there was a knock at their office door. It was Mrs. Wong, an elderly lady whose grandchildren used LearnBridge. "My grandson," she said, her eyes tearing up, "he just got into the science program at the university. First in our family, because of your classes." That night, they made a decision. They would try one more time to secure funding, but this time with a different approach. Instead of chasing big investment firms, they would share their real stories, the students who succeeded, the families they helped, the communities they touched. They worked through numerous weekends preparing their new pitch. Their tiny apartment became a makeshift studio for recording student testimonials. Jun's mother brought them homemade meals, worried they weren't eating properly. "Success is good," she would say, "but health is wealth." Their persistence paid off when a small education-focused investment fund took interest. The investor, unlike others, didn't just look at their numbers, he visited schools using LearnBridge, talked to students and teachers. "You're not just building a company," he said, "you're changing lives." With the new funding came new pressures. They had to move to a proper office, hire more staff, and scale their operations. Some days, they barely saw each other, despite working in the same building. Their dinner dates became quick meetings over lunch, discussing user metrics and growth strategies. But they never forgot their roots. Every Friday, Jun still taught at the community center where they first met. May joined when she could, helping students with their homework. These moments reminded them why they started this journey. Their platform evolved based on real needs. They added features for students with learning disabilities, created content in multiple local languages, and developed offline access for areas with poor internet connectivity. Each improvement came from listening to their users, understanding their struggles. One day, a year into their expansion, they received an email that made them both cry. A small school in a remote village had used LearnBridge to prepare their students for national exams. Every single student had passed, a first in the school's history. The principal attached photos of the celebration, children beaming with pride and hope. They faced criticism too. Competitors called their methods unproven, traditional educators questioned their approach. But they had numbers to prove their impact, improved test scores, higher student engagement, and most importantly, countless stories of lives changed. Through it all, their love deepened. They weren't just husband and wife anymore, they were partners in a mission bigger than themselves. Their different backgrounds and skills complemented each other perfectly. Jun's understanding of education and Mi's business acumen creating something neither could have achieved alone. Their small apartment now had a wall covered in thank you letters from students and parents. Each one reminded them that their sacrifices were worth it. They were building something that would outlast them, touching lives they would never meet. Late one night, as they finally headed home after another long day, May spotted a familiar face, her father, standing outside their office building. He had been watching their success from afar, his pride battling with his stubbornness. That meeting would mark the beginning of another chapter in their journey, one that would surprise everyone. 10 years had passed since that rainy day when May first walked into the community center. Now, she stood on a stage at a global education conference, looking out at an audience of thousands. Jun was beside her, just as he had been every step of the way. The headlines in Forbes magazine said it all. LearnBridge valued at $3 billion. The teacher and banker who revolutionized education. But the real story wasn't in the numbers. It was in the millions of lives they'd touched, the dreams they'd helped realize, the bridges they'd built. Their old community center had transformed into LearnBridge's innovation hub, where teachers from around the world came to share ideas and develop new teaching methods. The peeling paint and worn furniture were gone, replaced by modern facilities, but they'd kept one old classroom exactly as it was, a reminder of where their journey began. Mi's parents, who had once opposed their marriage, now proudly told everyone about their daughter and son-in-law's achievements. Her father had become one of their strongest supporters, using his business connections to help expand LearnBridge's reach to underprivileged communities. "You proved me wrong in the best possible way," he said during a family dinner, his eyes glistening with tears. You didn't just make money, you made a difference. Their success hadn't changed their core values. They still lived in a modest apartment, though they could afford luxury. We prefer to invest in dreams rather than things, May would say when asked about their lifestyle. They drove the same reliable car they'd bought years ago and still enjoyed their weekly date nights at local food stalls. The couple had started a foundation that provided full scholarships to promising students from disadvantaged backgrounds. Many of these scholars went on to become teachers themselves, creating a ripple effect of education and opportunity. One morning, while having breakfast at their favorite local coffee shop, an elderly woman approached their table. My granddaughter, she said, her voice shaking with emotion, she's now a doctor because of your platform. We could never afford tutoring, but LearnBridge made it possible. These moments meant more to them than any business award or financial milestone. Their wall of thank you letters had grown into a digital archive of success stories, first-generation college graduates, rural students winning international competitions, adults returning to education while working full-time. Their team had grown to over 1,000 people across Asia, but they maintained the family culture they'd started with. Every new employee spent their first week teaching at a community center, understanding the impact of their work firsthand. The corporate world that had once mocked their marriage now studied their success story. Business schools used LearnBridge as a case study in combining profit with purpose. Young entrepreneurs sought their advice on building meaningful companies. Jun still taught occasional classes, now through their platform to thousands of students simultaneously. His passion for teaching hadn't diminished. It had grown with every life they touched. Mai had found her true calling too, using her business skills to make education accessible to all. Their love story had become legendary in Singapore, but not for the reasons society initially thought. They weren't just a rich girl who married a poor teacher, they were partners who dared to dream bigger than themselves, who proved that success means nothing without purpose. One evening, as they walked hand in hand through their old community center neighborhood, they passed a young couple sitting at their favorite coffee shop. The girl was wearing a business suit, the boy in simple teaching clothes, their heads bent together over a laptop. Reminds me of us, Jun smiled, squeezing Mei's hand. They're planning to start an education technology company, the coffee shop owner told them proudly. Your story inspired them. That night, looking out from their balcony at the city lights, they reflected on their journey. The wealth they'd created wasn't just in their bank accounts, it was in the millions of dreams they'd helped realize, the countless lives they'd touched, the generations they'd impacted. Those who had once mocked their marriage now understood what true success looked like. It wasn't about marrying into money or status, it was about finding someone who shared your vision of making the world better and working together to make that vision real. We showed them a different kind of wealth, Mei said softly, leaning against Jun's shoulder. Yes, Jun replied, the kind that grows when you share it with others. Their story had come full circle, proving that love, when combined with purpose, can create miracles. They had built more than a successful company, they had created a legacy of hope, showing the world that the greatest wealth comes from enriching others' lives.